Welcome to the Hundredfold Journey. We help people step out of religious bondage and into true abundance. We invite you to embark on a journey, a spiritual journey called the Hundredfold. At a Hundredfold, we are a group of people developing new thoughts, habits, and beliefs to understand our true identity, to live our life purpose, and experience the abundant life just the way Jesus did. Our mission is to provide support, encouragement, and resources to help you on your journey. The life you are meant to live is closer than you think. The journey is the destination, and your journey starts now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Grace Awakening Network program. I'm Doug Corbett, and I am part of the Hundredfold Journey, where we embark on a journey so that we know our true identity, live our life purpose, and experience true abundance. Because a hundredfold is about a group of people who are looking to find their true identity, and by doing so, finding God's true identity. So thanks for joining us as we come alongside you and provide you with the tools and encouragement on your journey, the hundredfold journey. We're currently in a series called Freedom from Religious Bondage. This is found in Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. And what is that yoke of slavery? It is religion, and it's the bondage that they have put us in. And the bondage is because religion, don't explain our true identity. And our true identity is found in union with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I like this slide because it reminds us of who we are. We are seated in heavenly places. And in 1 Peter, it says that he has given us everything for life and godliness. And in fact, we're even partakers of the divine nature. It talks about what true repentance is. And the definition of repentance is metanoia, which is change your mind. It's not about beating yourself up or crying or sobbing or any of that. It's just changing your mind as to who your identity is, so that when you look in the mirror, you don't see this dirty, rotten sinner. You see that you are as he is, which is God in you. And then the other one is last week we talked about the old versus the new covenant, and really what that means. And what it means is that Christ and what he did on the cross was the dividing line of human history. And I think most of us, me included, thought that the dividing line was at his birth, but it was actually at his death. And it turns out that today happens to be Easter Sunday in 2024. So today, oddly enough, we're going to be talking about what was finished. Not only was it the new covenant that we're now under, but also about the Ten Commandments. So we're going to be talking about that this morning. Again, it all goes back to what our true identity is. And when we understand who we are, then all of these things line up perfectly. Because as he is, so I am in this world. But as we talk about identity, there's some pillars that are in front of it. They're blocking what our true identity is. Again, several weeks ago, we talked about sin identity and what that meant. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about true repentance, old versus new. And today, the pillar we're going to be talking about is the Ten Commandments. So that's what we're doing, was we're breaking down the barrier of the Ten Commandments. So for those that are online, if we're not under the old covenant, but now under the new covenant, what about the Ten Commandments? And I hear those questions coming through. All right, Doug, this is great. Good news is that we now have a new priest. He's our high priest, and I've been given everything for life and godliness. But what about those Ten Commandments? So Linda, I know you're online. What are the Ten Commandments? Can you describe them to me, and what maybe some history that you have as far as what their purpose is? And is it our goal to keep the Ten Commandments?
Well, to me, I guess there were rules, and
Yep.
the rules that a lot of us know that we're not supposed to, or we felt like we were not supposed to do. And I think it's just because at that time, maybe the people's minds and hearts weren't on the right path.
Hmm.
And so they were rules to follow. And, like thou shalt not steal, because to me, thou shalt not steal is like, well, you're in poverty and you're having to take when God has set us free. But I think a lot of people were just on the wrong path,
Hmm.
and there were judgments and rules.
Yeah, and I like your illustration there. Thou shalt not steal. We steal because of the fallen mindset, and our identity is thinking that I am poor, when in fact God has given us everything. So the Ten Commandments were kind of there to remind us of who we are, um, and it should be out of love and out of our identity that we're living, not out of these Ten Commandments.
Mhm.
And then there's also a law that's written on our heart, and I'll explain that in just a minute here. But yeah, the Ten Commandments, their purpose, perfect segue, is in Galatians 3. The law was our tutor to bring us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith, not of works, because the Ten Commandments was all about works, what you do and what you don't do. But after faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor. We're no longer under the law. But then I hear you ask the question, but Doug, what about the Ten Commandments? I mean, they're written in stone. And here's where the coffin is, in the nail in the coffin. But if the ministry of death in letters engraved on stones came with glory, so that the sons of Israel could not look intently at the face of Moses because of the glory of his face, fading as it was, how will the ministry of the Spirit fail to be even more glory? For if the minister of condemnation has glory, much more does the ministry of righteousness abound in glory. So, Linda, I'll ask the question, how are the Ten Commandments described above?
Um, just as letters engraved in stone. And it was just mm, just a ministry, and just the ministry of condemnation. And
Right.
and it really does remind me of that. It's like, well, it reminds you that you are condemned.
Yes, that's right. Yep. Just that constant finger pointing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So there's a lot of reading, so I apologize ahead of time, but this is very important that we get this, because the law blinds and grace reveals glory. So follow along. Therefore, since we have such hope, we use great boldness of speech, unlike Moses, who put a veil over his face so that the children of Israel could not look steadily at the end of what was passing away. But their minds were blinded, for until this day, the same veil remains unlifted in the reading of the Old Testament, because the veil is taken away in Christ. But even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil lies on their hearts. Nevertheless, when one turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as the Spirit of the Lord. And then just a quick other verse, for the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So there's a lot of words here, but I've underlined the key points. Is that one is that there's a veil over the face, which in a sense is over the minds, because the minds are blinded. And that same veil remains anytime the Old Testament or the Ten Commandments, the old system, right? But in the new system, the veil has been lifted, right? Now let's dig into that a little bit. So when you think of a veil, literally, think of a bride with a veil over her face, right? She's being hidden, but then she can't really see clearly out, right? There's this barrier, this veil, that's in front of the eyes, so she can't see everything clearly, right? So literally, it's a veil that blinds or distorts, versus the bride that we are today. And I've shown this picture with our true identity. The veil has been lifted and we see clearly and we're confident, right? And I really like this picture that I chose here, because the woman, yes, she's a bride, but her expression on her face is kind of sad, but that's the way. It's like she's under condemnation and she's waiting for that veil to be lifted. Is there anyone that can free me from this bondage of religion and these commandments that I have to keep? Versus the other woman, which is, I am set free, I am bold, I am confident, I am happy, I am joyful. That veil has been lifted. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see the word do, or do you see the word done? Right?
Done.
Yes, amen, amen. The woman with the veil sees not now, not yet. And that's what religion tells us. Not now, not yet. Versus when this bride looks, she sees herself as complete and finished. Because that barrier, when she looks in the mirror, the other woman, when she looks in the mirror, she's looking through the 10 commandments, right? And she's not seeing herself as being complete. There's still more to be done. And that's what the law does, is it blinds us. So here's another example, right? So the 10 commandments written on stone, it's all about what we have to do. We have to obey. Versus when Christ came, it's about grace and truth. And the law in this case, and this is the woman caught in adultery, the commandment says that this woman should be stoned and put to death. But grace says, no, your sins are forgiven. They are remembered no more. And she's been set free. She's been liberated because of the grace and the truth that have been given to her. She was never a sinner, right? She was always loved before the foundation of the world. Just our minds have been blinded to that fact. Here's another way of looking at it. So today, again, Easter Sunday, but when the scribes and Pharisees had a choice between Barabbas and Christ, because their minds were so blinded, because of the 10 commandments that said someone that blasphemes needs to be put to death, they yelled, crucify him. And going back to 2 Corinthians, but their minds were blinded, for until this day the same veil remains unlifted in the reading of the Old Testament. So they were still under that old way, the law, and they totally missed grace and truth, even to the point the Son of God, a godly man, was killed, was crucified for doing nothing wrong, absolutely nothing, except in their mind, he did something wrong because he was set against their religion, their what they believed was the truth. That's how bad this gets. That's how bad the law, I shouldn't say bad, that's maybe not the right word, but that's how men, human kindness, sorry, I'm not gender specific, but mankind, when they think they're right, they'll get to the point where they become murderous. And their justification for it was the law, which caused that veil to go over their faces and their minds to be blinded. So the law blinds the mind. In Romans 12, Paul encourages, renew your mind to the fact that the old has passed and the new has come. So the old being the law, the new being grace. And Jesus is the living word. The law blinds you from a relationship with this living word. And if, like myself, as a Christian for 30 years, always trying to do the right things and always wanted to read my Bible and go to church and tithe and do all of those things. But there was my growth was stunted because I was still thinking I was under the law, and I still was thinking, do all the do's, do all the don'ts, and I was under shame and condemnation. But again, the veil was torn, right? When Christ was on the cross, when he said it was finished, the veil ripped from top to bottom. And the veil, right, is that veil that was in front of the Holy of Holies. So now that veil has been torn and his spirit has been released upon all flesh. So the law blinds you from what Jesus did on the cross. So literally, the veil, and figuratively, the veil was torn. And I kind of drew this little picture here in the middle. So that's my little squiggly line, but that represents the veil. So the law blinds you from what Jesus did on the cross. And like Adam and Eve back in the garden, thinking he needed to do in order to be who he already was. And that's what the 10 Commandments really represent, is they represent Adam taking from that apple and say, if you eat of this apple, then you will become like God. Well, guess what? He was already like God. He was in his image and his likeness, but he didn't believe it because his mind was blinded and he thought he needed to do. So that veil, in a sense, was covering the true nature of who he was. And that is Galatians 5:1. This is our verse for this series. For it's freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So law is religion and grace is relationship. And we've been set free.
And
So,
I'd just like to
yeah,
add to that
please.
Romans 8 says that therefore there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And to me, the 10 Commandments are condemnation.
Yes.
They remind me to be condemned. But in Romans 8, it talks about, therefore there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus.
Yes.
For the law of the Spirit of life has set you free in Christ Jesus from the law of sin and death.
Yeah.
And the 10 Commandments to me are just reminders of condemnation. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's that finger pointing. It's you're never good enough. Not now, not yet. So that veil is there. You're always seeing it. You can't see clearly what Christ has done and who your true identity is because of that veil.
right.
Yep. Yep. Total condemnation. I know that's where I was for my 30 years of my Christian life, is there was always more to be done. And
Mhm.
it was never enough and never good enough. And, you know, like tithing, right? Do
Mhm.
you tithe, are you tithing, number one? And number two, are you tithing, a true 10%? And is it on the gross, or is it on, and there's always more to be done. And quiet times in the morning, that was a big one for me, is I tried to make sure that I would get up and say my prayers and read my Bible and do all of that. But, you know, I did it only for 20 minutes, right? And then I hear, Bill down the street, he did it for an hour. And why didn't you do it for an hour? I, so it's never good enough. And that's where the freedom comes in, is You do it because you want to, not because you have to. And that's where relationship comes in.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to go to church to feel good or be
Yeah.
clean or be set free.
Yeah.
You are already
That's right.
free.
That's right. And it's from out of that fullness. It's out of uh, that fullness of that love that we know we are loved and
Mhm.
holy and blameless. We don't have to work to get that. And that's why we want to do those things. It's not because we have to.
Yeah.
And I know for me, that was a huge switch that I needed to make. And uh, thank God that I was set free and my eyes were open and that veil was basically lifted. Yeah.
Mm.
So here's a bunch of scriptures that I'm gonna throw at you. First off, we are set free from the law. And it says in Romans 8:2, set free from the law of sin and death. How about that for a law? Hey, yeah, here's a law, and it only brings sin and death. Doesn't sound like a good law to me, but it does because it reveals who we are, our our fallen nature, our fallen mindset that thinks that I have to do in order to be, and it reveals that to us to the point where we now start thinking, oh, well, I can't do it, help me. And then Christ comes, God comes and says, I've done it all for you. Here, it's a free gift. You don't have to do anything for it. So it shows us our fallen mindset and the blindness that we had, thinking I needed to do. It reveals to me that I don't have to, that I've been set free because we're now under a new covenant, which is under grace. So Romans 6, you're not under the law, but under grace. And we're also dead to the law. So my brothers and sisters, you were also died to the law through the body of Christ, that you might belong to another, to him who was raised from the dead, in order that we might bear fruit for God. So we're dead to it. And then we're set free from the law. So we talked about the tutor that takes us there. Once that tutor takes us there and reveals to us um, who God is and who we are, and then all of a sudden that guardian leaves because we have the Spirit within us, right? So we're no longer under that guardian because it's the end of the law. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. And we're not led by the law. Excuse me, Galatians 5. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. So again, verse after verse. And again, being a Christian for 30 years, I never heard these specific verses talk about, the condemnation and the fear that the law brings and that veil that was put over my face. And then to top it all off, Christ fulfilled the law. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. So he did it, he fulfilled the law. And then on the Mount of Transfiguration, when Jesus was on the Mount, God said, this is my beloved son, listen to him, right? Not those 10 commandments, not Moses and not Elijah, the prophets and the law. Listen to Christ. And what did he tell us? He came here to set us free. So let's be set free. Now, what about the law that's been written on our hearts? Because it does say that in John 3, new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. So there is a law that's on our heart now, but that law is the law of love. Hebrews says, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days. I will put my laws upon their heart, and upon your mind I will write them. And this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his son and love one another as he gave us the commandment. So this means we can't stop believing and we can't stop loving because it's written on our hearts. Now it comes from within us versus without us. So without means, oh, I have to do all these things. I have to look righteous. You already are righteous and it comes from within you. And that's because love has been written on our hearts. So this explains why hell is of our own making here on earth, because he is written on our hearts, yet we ignore it. We silence it with every human effort, which then causes pain, weeping, and gnashing of teeth. And that describes hell on earth, right? What do you mean, that the commandments telling us that we have to do things and then are being angry because we want to be self-righteous? I did all these things for you, and you're telling me I didn't need to do all of those. And you become angry, even to the point where the scribes and Pharisees, like I said, nailed Christ to the cross. So love is a response. This is our original design. Love and relationship is outside the law. You can't command someone to love you. Tell your wife, husbands, or kids that. It's a want to versus a have to. And then it's the power of love to love. And in Ephesians, it says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. So this is the picture, the unveiled bride that sees Christ and the love that we have already. It's not because of anything we've done or deserved. It's given to us freely. And then because of that, we love because he first loved us. And then the power of love to share. So Ephesians, it says that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints, that is the width, the length, depth, height, to know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. We are filled, and because of that love, now we're an outpouring of love to share to others, because you can't give what you don't have. So this is our true identity. The chain of the commandments has been broken. The veil has been lifted. So hopefully I broke down that pillar of the 10 commandments. Next week, we'll be talking about Adam versus Jesus.
Yes.
All right. So please reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Of course, I'm on YouTube as well. So I'd love to hear from you. And you can always reach out to us on the100foldjourney.com. That's the QR code to get to our website. And of course, reach out to me on email with any questions you might have. So that's our teaching for this morning. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.